1. So for those who are unaware, companies usually have engineering staff talk with engineering of parts suppliers, detail down the specifications and whatnot, and then the list goes to the purchasing department or the purchasing folks of that particular engineering department. This is because engineers don't want to involve themselves with 30, 60, 90 days due, terms and conditions of sale, validity of quotes. Remember the direct quote PDFs, because they have hundreds of them, and working with finance departments to understand what is best for the overall financial health. Also, in fairly large companies, you have buyers dedicated for each vendor or buyers dedicated to certain products, like pneumatics, electrical, heavy-duty construction, mechanical components, made-to-order parts, etc. And the buyers themselves have internal pathways and routes so that each required product finds themselves with the correct buyer, because the engineers are dicks, and to lower their workload, they will more often than not dump all the parts on a single buyer. A new VP comes in, sees buyers as bloat, fat to be trimmed, and makes a decision. He lays off 8 buyers in that engineering department, which makes whole factory material handling systems. Systems that handle nearly all the materials moving through multi-100,000 square footage, from raw materials warehouses and yards to finished goods sections. We had to order the stuff ourselves. Before we did, though, 3 senior staff engineers asked that to be sent in a department-wide email. VP does so. And now starts the compliance. Vendors ask, what due terms do you want? Not aware of how deep you have to go. Engineers ask for the best price. Due in 15 days after delivery. Sure, let's do that. Turns out that vendor usually was on a net 90-day due, because paying off in the next quarter would be more sensible. What department do you want me to bill it to? Of course mine, because I'm ordering it. Engineers blissfully unaware the billing happens by sales department, as it gets easier to finally do profitability analysis, since whatever sales department got the contract pays for the parts too. Turns out our department didn't have a single sales process or work route to get bills and pay them. Now by the time we get to the bottom of the purchasing list, the offered quotes have expired, so we get back to vendor sales teams and get a new quote and wait. Doing nothing much until we get quotes and order stuff. End of quarter, department finances are a total massive screwed up mess, 8-figure mess. CFO is rat-faced, steaming from her ears, trying to find out what is going on. The engineers say, oh, the best price was net due 15 days, so I selected that. Well, I was ordering it, so the bill should come to us. Why would another department pay for the stuff I'm ordering for? You asked to do the ordering yourself? This is not your job. Everyone shows her the email. End of day, VP walked out, never to be seen again. All the buyers who were let go were rehired, and all of them negotiated a pay increase of $6.50 an hour. 2. Previous job, worked in a company that was regulated by multiple powerful government agencies. When they asked for something, they want it pronto, and if the delay was too long, they'd rather have us shut down business rather than wait for data, information, or prototypes. I was given a company phone that I had to take everywhere with me. Rotating on-call periods, but I'm expected to be available if the crap hits the fan. The phone was a special kind of phone from a fruit company based in California. Ah yes, the Kumquat Plus. It wasn't a US-based model, it had 2 different networks, and with some extra tech in it, could jump on whichever was stronger, and maybe even use both of them at the same time, I'm not sure, but it was good. Needless to say, it should have been pretty expensive. Now, I love nature. I can and have gone camping, oftentimes in remote places, and gone a few days without seeing another human. 18 months into the job, there was a new schedule where I got 3 days of being on call and expected to work a regular 8-hour day. Having to live within 20 minutes of work and then 4 days of being off. This worked pretty amazing for me. As soon as the next on-call team doing and maintaining the same work from our department got on, I'd be off, on a plane, to get another national park under my belt, or some remote state parks, or whatever I had my sights on. I thought it'd be helpful to carry the company phone I was given along with me, in case I was needed. In the year and a half I was never contacted when not being on call, as we had a strong culture of communications, and the teams knew what they had to know in order to troubleshoot. But nevertheless, I took the company phone along with me. During the trip, the screen got damaged. Not so much that the phone was inoperable, but definitely difficult to use. Got back, went through the forums, and got IT to repair or give me another one. Some manager high up in IT went off and was going on and on and on about how expensive those devices were, how difficult it was to configure them, and how much harder it was to get them in the US and all the other BS. Then she told me I am not to take the company phone and hardware along with me wherever I go. It is supposed to go between my residence and the office, and nowhere else. And she was pretty derogatory about it, even throwing in a few large chunks of racism in between. I shot off an email later, keeping my manager in the loop and the department head, about confirming what she said. Cue my malicious compliance. A few weeks later, I took my PTO. PTO policy was pretty good, and thus I took off for 3 weeks, and still had over 3 weeks remaining. Damn. I did not take any of the company hardware along with me, heaven forfend, as per what was stated by some manager who was somewhere in the org chart in IT, and decently high up. All hands on deck situation arose. My manager was angry at me not being able to answer the company phone. Wasn't like I was in the woods at my very dear cousin, who had just had twins and a very difficult delivery. I took care of my cousin while her husband looked after the kids. Manager had to get me on my own phone, and she had to go through some of my work friends for my personal phone. Well, I hope former friends after that, since I was pretty good at not giving out my personal contact info to people at work. Why aren't you answering the company phone? I'm not at home. Don't have my company phone with me. Never mind, get back online immediately. We have an all-hands-on-deck situation. Sorry, I do not have any of the company hardware with me. The manager decides to be a bit mouthy. Why the jugglers? This manager in IT said I wasn't to take company hardware along with me wherever I go. What? When did that happen? I sent an email stating what she said, to keep you and X, our department head, in CC. She goes through her email, finds it, and a bunch more expletives. You need to come back immediately. Sorry, no can do. My cousin's still pretty much half dead with a very difficult twin pregnancy. I'm taking care of her, and I was pretty clear about it before going on PTO. I wouldn't be able to come back. Manager cuts off the call. Calls me back in 30. Do you have anyone who has the keys to your apartment? Yes. Give me their contact. I'm gonna get the computer and a screen. And UVW, other hardware, shipped to you before the night and you can get back. We have a serious situation. Can I get more PTO then to compensate for this intrusion? Me knowing I have the slightly upper hand and striking when the metal's hot. Sure, I'll send an email approving this. By 8 p.m. I get my company phone, computer, and other hardware shipped to me. I also get 2 emails. One email approving the extended PTO for this intrusion. Second email from my department head X stating that the original company policy is still in effect. In fact, a new policy had been put in place for some employees to have their company hardware with them, even on PTO. Anything else said by anyone else was to be disregarded, and the cherry on top, that IT manager was in CC. When I returned for my PTO, that IT manager was nowhere to be seen. Turns out she had been demoted. She couldn't digest that and quit. The company had to spend over $6,000 to ship it on the same day, cheapest, and get that hardware to me. Now, many people who have heard this story pointed out that it wasn't a win for me. Don't be contacted on time off, now you gotta carry phone and laptop, risk management of the company, and so on. First, I probably wasn't needed. As I said, we had a good communication structure, so alternate teams were aware, and it wasn't like I was the only one who'd be able to do it. But in case regulators asked for a third thing while people were already working on things 1 and 2, it'd be nice to have some more people around who would be taking over. If the regulator was angry enough, come the deadline, they would literally stop the business, and they could. Second, the employer was pretty good about not contacting people being off or on PTO. And if someone was contacted, they were given more time off or more days PTO. People were happy. A few were grumpy maybe, but it was reasonable. Third, yes, some people may or may not see this as a win, and I get your point. Then again, this is not Europe. The downside, this industry is literally 5 times in US versus in Europe. Fourth, people in management were understanding. Since I was available but away, I would be utilized only if the ones already working were overloaded, but they wanted me available. Thankfully, I really wasn't utilized. Fifth, destroying someone's career? I didn't do that. They did it to themselves. She was pretty high up in the IT chain, and I agreed to follow what she said. Consequences. IT doesn't have a business overview, but a small horse-like view of business through the lens of IT. She should probably have consulted a few more folks before being in a rage fit and throwing a tantrum. Sixth, original company policy was to have your hardware available when not on PTO, but when on PTO to have the phone. They were also upfront about the possibility that we might be needed when on PTO, very rarely if regulators wanted to question. As I said, communication culture was strong, so at least 3 other people knew what I or anyone else in the department was doing. If disturbed during PTO, our job offer stated a certain amount of more PTO that would be given. Seventh, as per the original company policy, I kept my company phone with me. Not my problem it got damaged. I didn't intentionally throw rocks at it. It happens. 3. This happened a few years ago. I no longer work with this company because this malicious compliance isn't the first time my personal health and safety was taking the back seat to the requirements of the company. I worked for a security company. My assignment was a vehicle depot lot for the gas company. My duties were to sit in an aluminium trailer shack in the corner of the lot and monitor for suspicious activity. In Philadelphia, many of these areas were targeted by catalytic converter thieves. I was also supposed to make patrol every hour to ensure the security of the site. Other than my patrols and to use the bathroom, I was not permitted to leave the box for any reason. My uniform was my usual long-sleeve button-up shirt and long pants, but also I was required to wear a boiler suit and hard hat for safety from things I might encounter on my patrols. Originally, I only wore the boiler suit and hard hat to do my patrols because it was July, and the air conditioner in the box didn't work. However, my site supervisor came in for inspection and threatened to fire me if I wouldn't wear the boiler suit and hard hat while sitting in the box as well. So I did. The end of July, beginning of August 2022 was one of the worst heat waves in Philadelphia history. On a good day it was 140 plus in the box, as it was made of aluminium and sitting in direct sunlight for the duration of my shift. 3 days in and I passed out standing in the men's room from advanced heat stroke. The gas company staff called an ambulance for me. I was airlifted to the hospital. Traffic in this part of the city was notoriously terrible late afternoon, early evening, and every second counted. At the hospital, my body temperature was 105.6, and my pulse was a blistering 147. It took doctors 2 days to get my temperature back to normal and address all of the damage the excessive heat had done to my body. While I was getting life-saving care at the hospital, my abandoned post was infiltrated by 3 men who stole the catalytic converters from 18 vehicles. The parent company was livid, and when I was inquired as to why I wasn't at my post when the theft occurred, my doctor at the hospital took the phone and informed them of my condition upon arrival at the hospital. In the aftermath, I was reassigned, The broken air conditioner in the box was replaced by a 40,000 BTU unit that required a separate generator to power. A few weeks later, my security company lost its contract with the gas company after my replacement fell asleep in the box, while the thieves returned to steal another 20 catalytic converters. I admire their consistency. 4. This happened when I was in high school. Our senior year, the school implemented a new rule that if the planner or hall pass they gave us at the beginning of the year was missing any pages, or was damaged in any sort of way, the hall pass printed in the back of the book was invalid. A few teachers overlooked this asinine rule and issued their own hall passes, but a couple of weeks into the school year, administration doubled down on the planner needing to be intact to be used as a hall pass. Cue malicious compliance. My friend, whose dad was a janitor at the local hospital, had several hundred feet of surgical tubing that Dad would take home from his work for his younger siblings to play with. We used this tubing and basically created a bunch of urinal cups using the tubing and some empty soda bottles. At first it was only a few of us, but by winter break, nearly a third of the school was using our improvised urinals or wearing adult diapers to class. Not just seniors, but underclassmen as well. Afternoons became unbearable for teachers and students alike, as the smell of urine was quite overwhelming. Substitute teachers started refusing to come and substitute for our high school. By Easter, the school revoked the rule on the back of nearly 40,000 complaints from students, teachers, and parents. To this day, the school still prints separate hall passes for students. Now, to head off some comments that I've gotten previously, because we could have used "it's an emergency" to get out of class anyway. This rule was put in place because 2 students used "it's an emergency" to get out of class and duck into a space behind one of the stairwells to have sex. I mean, that might have been an emergency. The school kinda overreacted, and I don't think they expected this response. 5. Policy change. My department, about 200 software engineers, instituted a policy. All code changes must be installed on all servers within 2 weeks or have manager approval. Context. I work in software at large companies. Eventually, software that is written needs to be deployed to a computer somewhere. Software changes are one of the biggest reasons for bugs or outages. But the way many software companies work is every change increments a version number. Think I'm deploying version 111 to a server somewhere, and if the previous version that was deployed was version 101, that means 10 changes are going out. If one of them fails, we basically need to sift through the changes to find the bug and revert the changes. Deploying regularly is good practice and keeps the amount of code being deployed low and allows us to quickly identify failures. Problem. It was literally impossible to follow this rule as simple code changes implied 100 deployments. If this sounds insane, it is, but only because it wasn't automated. This meant that pretty much any change required manager approval. I called this out and suggested changing the code such that we could make changes to individual systems at a time. About 3 months of work. This was not funded by management. The malicious compliance. I blocked literally every change because we're not following policy, and made them ask for manager approval. This forced managers to confront the unfollowable policy and to understand the complexity of what they were asking. But they kept approving changes anyway. So I kept it up. Every change was going to follow this policy. Then management would be forced to 1. Approve the change anyway, 2. Invest in the code changes to isolate services, or 3. Abandon the policy. While there was an initiative for automation, time to delivery was long, and only reduced the number of manual actions to about 30. After 9 months and dozens of overrides, a new initiative that was critical required rapid changes. I made a document outlining how many times the policy had been overridden, what could be done to follow the policy, but ultimately recommended that we either invest now in changes to allow this to work, slow down the critical project to follow policy, or abandon it. It was abandoned. The aftermath. I received an exemplary performance review, with people noting my commitment to quality and a champion of this policy. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Revenge's Ice Cream, episode 406. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already done so. If you'd like to support the channel, you can sign up for my Patreon page, which is linked in the description. As little as $1 or more a month is super duper helpful. There's also a link in there to my merchandise store on Teespring, and you can leave a tip for this or any other video by clicking on the heart with the $sign underneath. Okay. No more business today, so let's move on to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is, not including salt and pepper, what's your favourite go-to herb or spice to use in cooking? Mine is garlic in its many, many forms. Let me know what you think in a comment below. And before we go, let's take a look at the answer of the day from a previous video. And today's answer comes from Revenge's Ice Cream 404. And it was, when is the last time you were proud of yourself for not legitimately and justifiably losing your mind over something? And today's answer comes from Annie Northman. After months of procrastinating, I managed to put together my IKEA bookshelf and somehow didn't manage to lose my mind over it. I just have to secure the shelf to the stand and I'll be done. Good job, Annie Northman. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening and take very good care of yourselves.